To leave you this morning, we ask that you join us in sending love and strength to our beloved Today colleague, Sheinelle Jones.
What happened at Sheinelle Jones' husband's funeral wasn't just sad, it was something you don't forget. It didn't feel like a typical goodbye, it was bigger than that. The room was packed with people, but when Sheinelle stood up to speak, everything stopped. It was like time froze. No cameras, no lights, just her voice, steady, honest, and full of love. She didn't sound rehearsed.
More than anything else in this world, and was just so proud of his kids. He was that dad that...
She wasn't trying to perform. She was speaking from the deepest place in her heart, and as she talked, you could feel it. This wasn't just about grief. This was about love, about strength, about a journey no one else saw. Everyone in that room felt it. You didn't need to know her husband to understand the pain in her words or the beauty in the way she spoke about him. People expected sorrow. What they didn't expect was the raw truth. She didn't just talk about what it was like to lose him. She showed them what it had meant to love him. The struggles, the quiet victories, the life they built together. That speech went viral.
Had a beautiful, deep, abiding faith.
Yes, he did.
Every single day of this fight, and you could see it in his eyes. He was an extraordinary person.
Not because it was edited perfectly or delivered like a news segment, but because it was real. And that realness stayed with people. Some viewers said they had never seen someone speak about loss with such calm, such love, and such power. But to understand why that moment hit so hard, you have to rewind. That bond Sheinelle had with her husband didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built day by day, year after year, and the heartbreak of losing him wasn't just about death, it was about the life they had lived for weeks before the funeral.
I talk a lot about how this place is like a family, and this morning we have some heartbreaking news about someone who is very dear to us here at Today.
So let's take a deep breath. With profound sadness, we share this morning that Uche Ojay, the husband of our dear friend and Today co-host Sheinelle Jones, has passed away after a courageous battle with an aggressive form of brain cancer called glioblastoma. There are no words for the pain that we feel for Sheinelle and their 3 young children. Uche was an incredible person. We all loved him.
Something felt off. On the Today Show, Sheinelle, who always lit up the screen with her smile and energy, was suddenly gone. There was no goodbye, no explanation, just ... gone. Viewers noticed instantly. That empty chair on the morning show felt colder than usual. Fans started asking questions online. Where's Sheinelle? Is she okay? When is she coming back? The show kept moving forward. Guest hosts stepped in. Segments ran like usual. But for those who watched every morning, something was missing. Sheinelle wasn't just another TV personality, she was a part of people's daily lives. The silence surrounding her absence made the concern grow even more.
On this big shoot out on the water, and on that shoot, let's take a look at her multitasking skills, because we hear there was a moment on the boat when you had to jump into Mambo in the middle of the shoot. Take a look.
Yeah, soccer practice is canceled. I have to go.
I'm surprised you got service out of the water.
We're like out on the water. Kyan was out by himself trying to get to soccer practice. And it's funny because our producer, the fact that she gets it too, she has kids, so she just recognizes that, like, she thought that was so funny because this is what we do. People think, we're juggling all over the place.
But it's so real.
And I've got the life vest on in the middle of the sea.
That is funny to see you like that with your hot yellow phone. I mean, just
I'm like, soccer practice is canceled. I gotta go.
Right, but you have to do it. And I think so often we try to hide what's really going on. You're on a shoot, soccer practice is canceled, and you have to make a call.
This is real life.
Happy International Day of Women.
Then came the rumors. Some thought she was just taking a break. Others guessed she had a private opportunity or was stepping away from the spotlight for good. But the truth, what was really happening was so much heavier than anyone imagined. Without a big headline or dramatic announcement, Sheinelle quietly posted something on Instagram. No image, no long message, just a few words. I'm taking time to deal with a family health matter. It was short, so simple, but those words said enough. For her fans, It felt like a quiet alarm bell ringing. Something serious was going on. What people didn't know was that Sheinelle's husband, Utch, had been diagnosed with glioblastoma, brutal and aggressive brain cancer. It's the kind of diagnosis that turns life upside down in an instant. And, while the public had no idea, Sheinelle was facing it all: doctor visits, treatment plans, fear, confusion, and holding her family together through it, all while showing up for work, all while smiling on television. She did it without making it about her. She didn't go public. She didn't ask for sympathy. She kept showing up with the same professionalism, even though behind the scenes, her world was falling apart. She wasn't hiding it to be secretive. She was protecting her husband's peace, giving him dignity, giving their children space to breathe. She was already grieving long before she said goodbye, and she was doing it with strength most of us could never fully understand. To really see how deep this loss was, you have to go back, further back to when their love story began. Before the TV makeup and lights, before the Today Show audience knew her name, back in Philadelphia, where they both grew up. That's where Sheinelle met Utch. They were young. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't about fame. It was just real. He wasn't a public figure. He didn't want to be, but he was her safe place. Her calm in the chaos. She used to joke that even in college, he looked like a grown man, mature, collected, grounded. That balance worked. Sheinelle, full of vibrant energy, and Utch, steady and calm, they fit. She once told a story about a Cabbage Patch doll from her childhood. It didn't matter what it was, Utch embraced it, because it mattered to her. That was the kind of man he was. Her grandmother gave her advice once: if he loves you for who you are, not who you're trying to be, don't let him go. And she didn't. In 2007, they got married. It wasn't a red carpet event, just a joyful day filled with music, laughter, dancing, and love. Over the years, they had children, built a home, created their own traditions. They weren't perfect, but they were partners, always. That's what made the goodbye so painful. That's what made her tribute so unforgettable. Most of the world only saw Sheinelle as the upbeat morning show anchor. They didn't see the nights she spent awake. They didn't see the calls to doctors between commercial breaks. They didn't know how many days she went without sleep. 1 minute, she was helping her kids get dressed. The next, she was being touched up by the glam team, smiling through interviews with celebrities. But her heart was somewhere else. Being a caregiver, a mother, and a TV host at the same time meant flipping emotional switches constantly. Some days, there was no time to cry. Other days, she smiled for the camera because she had to. That strength, quiet, focused, steady, is what people didn't see. And maybe that's why her story hit so deeply once it finally came to light. As Utch's condition worsened, life got harder. He spoke less, moved slower, but Sheinelle stayed with him through all of it. She never ran from the pain. She stayed. Their kids still saw joy at home. They still saw love, because Sheinelle made sure of it. She didn't let the sadness take over. Then, on May 23, 2025, the silence broke. That morning, the Today Show opened differently. Savannah Guthrie's voice had a softness to it. And then came the words that made everything stop. We are heartbroken to share that our dear friend Sheinelle has lost her beloved husband, Utch. You could feel the weight in the studio. Savannah's voice cracked. Hoda Kotb wiped away a tear. Craig Melvin lowered his head. For a moment, they weren't TV hosts. They were family. Mourning. Live on air. Viewers watching at home felt it too. It was more than just news, it was personal. And as photos of Sheinelle and Utch began to spread online, family pictures, holiday clips, old videos where she beamed while talking about him, suddenly, all those moments felt bigger. Like tiny puzzle pieces falling into place. And then came the funeral. It wasn't full of flash or attention. It was quiet, intimate. And when Sheinelle stood up to speak, the room went still. She didn't have a speech written out. She didn't read from notes. She just talked. She told stories about how they danced in the kitchen, about how he turned every road trip into an adventure, about how his presence filled a room, even without saying much. She didn't focus on the sickness. She focused on the love. She painted a picture of their life together, not just the public moments, but the small, sacred ones, the kind of moments that build a marriage, the kind that stay with you forever. People cried, even those who thought they were prepared. The emotion in her voice, the way she remembered him, the way she spoke about joy in the middle of pain, it shook everyone. Clips of that speech began to spread. People called it one of the most moving tributes they'd ever seen, not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. And Sheinelle didn't try to capitalize on the attention. She didn't post a lengthy caption. She didn't schedule interviews. She didn't chase sympathy. She simply shared a post. Thank you for your love and support. No photo, no hashtags, no headlines. That silence, that choice to stay still said everything. She reminded us that you don't always have to explain your grief. Sometimes, showing up with grace is the strongest thing you can do. And people noticed. Other journalists praised her. Fans left messages, but Sheinelle stayed quiet. She let the love speak louder than the loss. She reminded everyone that grief doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. And as her story spread, something happened. People started holding their loved ones closer. Some called their partners. Others looked at their kids differently. Social media filled with people saying how deeply they were moved, not just by the pain, but by the quiet beauty of how Sheinelle carried it. Old posts of her and Utch resurfaced. One in particular caught people's hearts. It was a simple photo, years old. The caption just said, "We're just getting started." But now, it felt like a goodbye. That's the thing about real love, it echoes, even in silence. Sheinelle's story wasn't about a headline. It wasn't about fame or drama. It was about a woman who loved deeply, lost painfully, and still stood tall. A woman who kept walking through the storm, not by shouting but by choosing grace. And that's why it stayed with so many people. Because at the core, this wasn't just about death. It was about life. About choosing love, even when there are no promises. About holding onto what matters, even when everything else falls away. One viewer wrote, "Sheinelle just taught me more about love and silence than most people do, screaming it from the rooftops." Double quotes. Another simply said, "She reminded me to appreciate what I have before it's too late." In the end, it wasn't just a funeral. It wasn't just a moment. It was a reminder that love, real love, doesn't always need words. That the small, quiet moments, the ones we think no one sees, are often the ones that last the longest, and that even after anyone is gone, their light can still shine through the person who loved them most.